Hi, everyone. Good day and welcome. My name is Kayla Altman, and I am a Communities Coordinator here at ASUG, and I am pleased to welcome you to today's episode of the Internet of Things, Making the Internet of Things Real, episode 1 of 8. And thank you for joining us for this exciting kickoff presentation. Before we officially begin, I do have a few announcements and some housekeeping notes to share with you. The first is a reminder that if you're looking for some information on additional webcasts in this series, to keep your eyes peeled for your personalized webcast listing each Monday. You can also visit us on asug.com/events for more information on upcoming webcast presentations. Today's webcast is being recorded. The recording link along with the slide deck will be emailed out to you within the next business day, and we'll also be posting this presentation on the discussions area of asug.com. If you're interested in coming back around and giving it a re-listen or possibly sharing it with a coworker or a colleague, you are welcome to do so. A reminder for any of you folks out there who might be Business Objects users or Business One customers that we will be co-locating 2 fantastic events in Austin this summer, the Business Objects Conference and the Business One Summit on August 31st through September 2nd. You can learn more on our website where you can also submit registration. It is now with great pleasure that I turn us over to Paul Kurchina, who's a community advocate and a subject matter expert here at ASUG, who will give us an overview on today's webcast.
Thank you, Kayla, and welcome everyone. I'm quite excited about today's call. We have a great speaker who will introduce you in a few minutes, but I want to highlight a couple of things before we get started. 2 of the communities within ASUG that I'm heavily involved in, one being user experience and the other being Internet of Things, have both been just launched this year. You'll see on your screen email addresses for both user experience as well as the Internet of Things. If you send an email to ux@asug.com, you'll get an auto reply back telling you how to join, listing webcasts coming up, and other information. Same thing with the Internet of Things. We launched this community at Sapphire a couple of weeks ago. If you send a note to iot@asug.com, an email, you'll get a reply back listing all the webcasts in this series, as well as information on where to go for key SAP IoT resources, as well as contact details, how you can get involved in the community if you have stories present. So please take advantage of those resources to connect. Next slide. As we're starting to grow and cultivate this community within ASUG, I mean, you're hearing about Internet of Things in so many different places, from a consumer perspective, from an enterprise perspective. We got together with some key IoT leaders at SAP, some key partners in the SAP ecosystem, as well as the German SAP user group, to pull together for you an 8-episode webcast series that will run between today and July 9th. This webcast series is really designed around the context of Internet of Things in the enterprise to give you a sense of where things are at today, what the possibilities are and what you can be doing, what actual customers are doing in this space, to start you thinking about how you can begin your IoT journey. And I think invariably it's not going to be if you get on this journey, it's a matter of when. And you're probably wondering, and hence the title of today's presentation, what is IoT? How can I make it real? How can I take it back into my enterprise? On that note, I'm very pleased to have on our call today Michael Lynch. Michael is one of SAP's global co-leads for Internet of Things at SAP. Michael came over to SAP a number of years ago, and I first met Michael when he was the CEO of Right Hemisphere, which became Visual Enterprise in SAP. So Michael has had some interesting background, and I think most importantly, will share with you some key insights today regarding Internet of Things. And before Michael starts, one thing I would like you to think about in the context of this call. We're going to have some survey questions at the end, and would like you to think about, what was the one key thing you got out of Michael's presentation today? Will be one question. The second question in the survey will be, is there something else you're missing from the call today that we need to address in a webcast or some other format later? And thirdly, what are some key topics that you would like to see this community present on Engage in? So think about those through the course of the call for the survey at the end, as well as, and without further ado, I want to hand it over to Michael to really make Internet of Things real for us. Michael?
Great. Thank you, Paul, and appreciate the opportunity to get in front of the community. This is a great journey I think we're all on in the Internet of Things. The possibilities and the opportunity is huge, and look forward to sharing what we've learned and what SAP has to offer, but also making the offer to anybody who wants to contact me as we go forward and discuss what's going on within your own companies and your own innovation. My email is michael.lynch@sap.com. So making the Internet of Things real, I think the first thing I'd like to do is kind of make a provocative statement, which is that the Internet of Things isn't really about things. Now, you have to know how to connect to things. There's a lot of technologies. There's connectivity at the protocol levels and all kinds of different device clouds and all the kinds of stuff that happens to make the things connect. But in the end, this is a transformative technology that will really radically change how we do business, how the world works, etc. And that's really how it should be thought of. No different in some ways than cloud technologies or mobile technologies. In the end, these are technology transformations that will have a massive impact on what we do, but it's really not about the technology itself. And I'll walk you through all the technologies, but I want to stay focused. In the end, this is about transforming business process. But Paul mentioned, what is the Internet of Things about, and what is it? And you'll see a lot of definitions, but basically all the things are being connected. The Internet of Content was really all about putting documents on the web. Web 2.0, the social web, about 8 billion people they expect by the end of the decade will be connected to the net in some way. And now we're talking about the Internet of Things, where about 10 times that amount of devices will be connected. And, the numbers range, but basically it's the beginning of the digitization of the entire planet, effectively. So what does that mean? If you ever have seen a Google heat map when you're looking at Google Analytics of where every click happens, et cetera, so on a web page or web experience, you can know everything that's happening. The same will become true about the physical world. This is not a brand new idea. SAP itself has been working on the Internet of Things since the mid-90s with RFID technologies and our logistics and transportation, track and trace, and all other kinds of things we do can use these kinds of technologies. And it's not new in manufacturing, our manufacturing suite, and it's not new in lots of industries, oil and gas, et cetera. And you do see kind of when you talk with different customers, people who've been in these industries sort of fold their arms a little bit and say, we've been doing this a long time. All of that is true. What is new is two enabling factors which have moved this to the top of the hype cycle. One is that the sensors themselves are getting incredibly inexpensive and will continue to do so. Bill Joy famously years ago coined, I think it was Bill Joy coined the smart dust, where this sensors will become so cheap that we'll just spread them all over the world and they'll be dust. And that will probably happen at some point. Scary, but the reality is that the sensors have become very inexpensive. And secondly, the compute power to deal with it, with big data and NoSQL kind of systems and data lakes and all the kinds of stuff that allow you and HANA to process in memory in real time. All of these things allow us to actually make sense of the information. This is what's new, and this is why the opportunity today is so powerful. And I'll throw a few statistics up that, these are from research I've done over the last year. These are just the ones that I found. It's the greatest opportunity we've had in a long time to make us more human. Now, you think about I said, the machines will be able to listen and all those kinds of things. It's scary. But the reality is if you look into another human being's eyes, you see something you don't see in your pets. You see the ability to gain insight and intelligence. And this digitization of our planet is the greatest natural resource we have ever had as a species to be able to gain that kind of insight. And that really is powerful. Some examples, the CO2 emissions, the reduction of 70% possible through smart lighting, agricultural technology. Nobody thinks we're stopping at 9 billion people. We have to feed ourselves. So cutting food prices in half and increasing yields by 67%. 500 billion annual cost savings in manufacturing, 22% margin increase in logistics, 50% reduction in shrinkage in grocery stores, again, feeding ourselves. The biggest one I think is really interesting is the autonomous car. Imagine no wrecks, no insurance requirements, no loss of productivity, all of that kind of stuff. So $5 trillion impact there. So the opportunities are huge, and if you look at them from the standpoint of core industries, et cetera, Cisco's numbers are in the 14 trillion range in opportunity, and that 80% of companies are planning some sort of IoT investment. So that's why this is so important and powerful, is to get a handle on the way to do this. It will touch every sector of the economy. This is by Beecham Research and all the different areas this can impact. So the real question, and what I hope to answer in this webinar is why SAP? Why should you look at SAP as a part of your IoT portfolio and as a central part? And what I want to show you is that SAP has the most comprehensive IoT portfolio to drive business value today. If you look past the hype and say, what is this about? This is about that transformative business value. And I want to walk you through at a high level, and then later I'll walk through some more detail on the technology. But if you look at this slide on the left, you have to connect the devices. SAP now can connect anything to our platform. We do it through a number of different areas, but we have ultralight technology, which is lightweight database, mobile link syncing technology, event stream processor, which allows us to have very powerful edge technology, which is really important as you work through these kinds of solutions. You need to be able, for instance, if you're going to have two cranes collide, you need to be able to stop that on the edge. You can't wait for latency to go back to the core. So we can connect anything through these technologies on the edge and bring them into the core of your operations. And the core can then be managed on-premise, where you may need sub-50 millisecond response time for that kind of collision detection or warehouse management or manufacturing, or in the cloud, where you may want to have the ease of deployment as well as making applications easy for your customer base. And then, so you can connect all those things to your business operations, and then you can connect them to the world's largest business network, so that on Ariba, for instance, you can do dynamic pricing around whether you should repair or replace parts. You can set up contingent labor, make sure that they have the right qualifications, et cetera, et cetera. So those three areas allow SAP on-premise, in the cloud, at the edge, and on business networks to provide a complete software platform to allow you to build your IoT portfolio and your path forward. So I'll talk more about these individual pieces of the technology, but I want just to give you a high-level view of this is what's required to go down this journey. And what we see in this journey is a three-step maturity curve going on. And the first step is really getting connected. And this, a lot of the industry is very focused on this. You'll hear, connect and get insights. And I'm a Silicon Valley guy, and a bunch of friends have startups, and every one of them has a gadget and a dashboard. And that's powerful, and it's important to get insight. But that's the first step. And we believe this step is really going to be commoditized over the next 4 to 5 years. As you gain, you digitize and you're able to connect and you're able to get dashboards of some kind that say, hey, something's going wrong, or you see a trend, et cetera. The second step is where really the value proposition begins to come in. And that is where you transform the way you make decisions and take action. That's the sort of middle section where you actually, now that I know that a pump is going to fail in North Sea oil rig, temperature's wrong, pressure's wrong, et cetera, it looks like, it has 3 or 4 days left, you want to then be able to, determine whether you should repair or replace, and do that through a dynamic pricing connection with Ariba and your suppliers. You want to order the parts. You want to get the labor on track. You want to book the travel, et cetera, and you want to have all those operational systems reacting to what's happened. And that's much beyond the dashboard. That's not thing to dashboard, that's thing to action. And so that's the second phase we see companies going forward, really integrating this into their operational processes. And the third, which is really the most exciting and unknowable at some level, is how companies will transform what they are and their customer experience based on this technology. I'm going to give you a couple of really interesting examples. And Paul was there at SAP, some of you were there as well. The founder of Under Armour presented, and they showed that they sell shoes and shirts, and he said, I never want to forget that. But what Under Armour has done is they've acquired a number of the fitness applications, so they're building a huge community of fitness application users, and they are putting sensors in their shoes and their clothing and bringing in other social and other information that their users want. And they're creating a complete community for the amateur athlete. And so is Under Armour, yes, sells clothing, but they are now a lifestyle business for that particular type of a demographic and user, and they've changed what they are. Another example is the tire company that can track that's tracking the wear on their tire can also provide, for instance, fuel reduction services to their customer, or they can become part of the data service to traffic or cities to let them know what potholes are, where traffic is slow, et cetera, because they know where they are, they're running over them. They also know the speed at which their tires are moving, these kinds of things. So what they become, the tire company becomes a provider of the critical thing that their users need because they have access to a particular type of data. So this reimagining what you are and your customer's experience is an incredible, powerful thing that we see again and again as we talk with customers. And the trick, as you look at your own businesses, is if we're gathering this kind of information, what customer base that we have access to can really use this, or partner base can really use this to provide value to our customers. And it may be in a completely new business. The tire company is not in the fuel reduction business, but it is now. So that's an example. So that's the third phase. And as we engage with customers, and as you look at your own transformation, look at these maturity curves and understand your pathway. And as Paul said, how do you get started? What do you do? This is one of the critical things to map out as you move forward. This is one other company that I think is quite interesting in that it's a company called Hogleitner. They make washroom supplies, so soap, towels, etc. They went through a process where we helped them center up all of their different components in the washrooms, and they a lot of their equipment's in industrial washrooms at hotels or stadiums and venues, etc. We put in the sensors and the gateways, etc. It turns out, so that they could manage the process. And what they were trying to do, and you'll see this again and again, especially in predictive maintenance and fulfillment type of use cases, is avoid truck runs. I mean, if you can avoid one truck run, those cost hundreds of dollars. You can pay for an entire implementation of the technology, one truck run per one of your devices. Generally, that's a pretty simple math that I've seen again and again with customers. And they were able to do that. So they wanted two things. They wanted the customer to see when they came into the washroom that it was clean and it had everything it needed. So they wanted better customer experience, and they wanted to avoid unnecessary truck rolls if they weren't filled. So very rapidly they knew the profile of how many folks were going into which washroom, and they were able to accomplish that. But something happened along the way is they began to change the way they thought of themselves, and they coined this term called big washroom data. So this is not a high-tech company, but now that they have this information, they began to look at themselves differently and move from a maker and provider of materials to a washroom operator. And they then realized that they knew which washrooms were lightly used during particular times. They put automatic locking mechanisms on. They could lock those washrooms and redirect people and basically lower the cleaning costs for their customer base. So again, using the information in a way that you may not even know how it will affect your business, but this is the very creative part at the end. This slide just shows how a complete sort of picture would work in a a predictive maintenance solution. And this is really the full picture. I'll just take a second here. So when you're doing predictive, you're looking at your physical assets and you make that prediction. That's the thing to insight. But then the thing to action allows you to get the service technician, service engineer, and reach out to all of these different networks that SAP has. So we believe this is kind of the full picture of how IoT will be implemented from a value standpoint in the future, connecting to the assets, getting insight, taking operational action, and connecting to your business networks to optimize and completely maximize the value proposition. And all of that can then be wrapped into those new customer experiences. So with that, let me talk a little bit about SAP's strategy on how we're building this out so that we can support the customer base more effectively. Basically, we're doing three things. First, we're enabling the SAP solution. So this is our logistics, our manufacturing, our service and support, et cetera, and we're methodically going across our lines of business and industry applications and enabling them with our IoT services and platforms so that you can connect the devices, get the insights, and begin to operate. Secondly, we have a huge custom innovation opportunity working with our custom group, and recently I looked at dozens and dozens and dozens of these projects going on in new and unique areas. We're doing these with customers, so as you engage with SAP and your representatives, if it is not available in our current suite of applications, or you don't want to build it yourself on the platform, we're certainly happy to engage with our custom innovation, and a lot of those innovations will then move down into standard applications over time. And then we're working with a number of partnerships to embed our technology into their IoT offerings. There was an announcement at Sapphire that Siemens is using the HANA Cloud Platform as the basis of their IoT application base. And that's a huge validation that the technology is robust, and a company that's been around, 150 years is basing their IoT technology on SAP. So we're very proud of that, and I think it's a good validator for you as you look at your different technology options that SAP is in this for the long haul and highly focused on this area. So that's how we're building up our solution base. And let me just take a minute here and talk about some of the key SAP solutions. So what is in the market today are connected assets, and that's the service and support capabilities, the predictive maintenance. We have our connected manufacturing solutions, our logistics solutions. There's an augmented reality solution, which is a great innovation solution to engage with and understand, and an innovation portfolio that I talked about with doing custom innovation. A couple of examples of customers who've put these together. Kaiser Compressor. This is a company that, as you can see, makes large industrial compressors. And they moved from a model, we've all heard everything as a service for quite a long time, but because they now can understand the complete cost profile of the product, they had a much better ability to move to a pay-as-you-go model. Secondly, they were able to track the actual air coming out of the compressor, and they can sell by the cubic meter now compressed air. And the CIO and met him in a number of things, believe this is a huge opportunity to grow their business, and they're moving forward in this area very rapidly. I'll show you a couple of quick screenshots here on the predictive maintenance solution. So this is a web-based application that you can connect. It will show you, as you can see, there's a red one where you have things that are out of normal tolerances. You can work with our data science teams or bring in your own R libraries for doing the predictive and then trigger all of the operational outcomes based on that. The next slide shows, that process. I'll go through this quickly, actually. So that's the, figuring out of what is actually happening, getting the fault, and then executing. And all of this is in one flow inside an SAP business flow, and you can also integrate it with non-SAP apps. Another customer that has done the predictive maintenance, John Deere, again, changing the way they're thinking about themselves and moving from a manufacturing company to a solution-based enterprise. So they don't think about themselves as making hardware, but think about themselves as making an integrated experience for their customer, just like Under Armour. And this is a trend to think through for your own company. What is the future of what we do? And I think this is a really interesting transformation for all companies to really understand what their point of view is and what their position in the market will be going forward. So on the predictive maintenance, I won't go through these. You guys can look at this. I think the PDF and the recording will be available. But, no unplanned downtime, lower cost, better first-time fix rate. These are all the things that folks are looking for and that this solution delivers. Value propositions on our connected manufacturing solution. I was at Harley-Davidson a couple of months ago at their plant in New York. If you ever get a chance, it's right outside of Philadelphia, like an hour drive, and anybody can take the tour. I think it's $10, and you can see all of this technology in action. So we're tracking every wrench, the torque values, the steps along the way. The entire process is monitored and being shown on dashboards around the plant. They shrunk the plant by 2/3. Increased the speed by which they were able to put bikes out from 21 days to 6 hours, and they're doing uniquely configured bikes on the same lines. So those are, two-wheeled bikes and three-wheeled bikes. It's really powerful, and if you get an opportunity, check that out. The next solution, and this was shown at Sapphire as well, is port logistics. So if you have a congested environment for moving freight in and out. What we did is we worked with the Hamburg Port Authority. They can't increase the size of the port, but they need to triple the amount of cargo going in and out. This is a common thing around the world as global trade has increased. So what we did is we worked with them and our partner T-Systems, and we're able to censor up all the parking spots, all of the containers, the ships, the trucks, and you have a very powerful traffic copying system where the port and the operators are all seeing one view of the information and only parts of the information they need. There were some interesting issues where different trucking companies did not want to be able to have their competitors see where their trucks were, so we were able to segment all the data, but it's a very powerful solution for optimizing traffic flow into transportation hubs. Again, there's some value propositions here that you can have a look at. Coming innovations, there's some really interesting stuff that's being worked on in a lot of the different areas. So transportation and trains, so predictive planning, rail integrity, et cetera. We're working with railroads, so if there's any rail companies on or companies that work with railroads, please talk to us about that. Connected retail. If any of you have been at Sapphire, you've seen our connected vending machine. This has two different value propositions. One is a much better experience for the customer. So the customer can, it's a really powerful big screen type of touch screen experience where you can, the vendor can understand the buying habits of the particular user because you can use the near field communication on the user's phone, and they basically log in when they walk. It logs in automatically. When they walk up, it shows them the kind of stuff they like. You can also buy things for your friends. So if you're a big vending machine company and your vending machines are around, people walk by your machine, you can say, hey, Sally, Bill has brought you a juice. Those kinds of interesting things that will come to fore as our world changes here with this technology, but also the delivery on time, making sure that you avoid the truck rolls for replenishment, just like in the Hogleiter story. So we think there's huge opportunities in vending, but also retail in general to add value there. We have solutions for the connected car. They were first shown at Sapphire, so these are both telematics as well as marketing solutions, meaning marketplace for automotive vendors if they want to have when we're putting together the marketplace where when the driver pulls up to the 7-Eleven, the offers can be there. The purchasing and fulfillment and all that stuff is managed in the back end by SAP. And great opportunities in the connected city. So this is a solution we built with the city of Nanjing to manage and determine all the traffic flow patterns in the city so that they could determine the optimal routes to expand and enhance their travel specifically to the airport. So a lot of different technologies used in a lot of different areas. And as I said, we have solutions in almost every area in every industry. So would love to talk with you more about these as you go down this journey. Lots of good customer validation in different industries, so we can show you these and provide demonstrations and the validation across all the different industries. Engaging. I want to talk a little bit about how the engagement process works with SAP, as well as then go through some of the technology a little deeper. So what we've learned about this process is you basically want to engage with your key account executives around these opportunities, and the process works generally where we have a discovery process. And for those of you who've not been involved in this, we have a process called design thinking, and this can take a couple of hours or a couple of days, however long you want it to take. But it's a facilitated process. This was developed by Stanford University, and it's an innovation process that we've really embraced inside SAP, and it basically is a workshop that's facilitated where you go through understanding your customer's customer, and really getting inside the value propositions you're trying to drive and the transformation you're trying to drive. You then do the use case prioritization, figure out what's most important, and then we'll follow up on that with a technical architecture and deep dives to validate the solution and then create a successful pathway forward. So that's the general way that we found engages the best, especially in these newer areas. If you were optimizing a particular type of technology, you already know what it is and you know what to do with it and all those kinds of things. This is probably not necessary. But in this case, we think this is a great opportunity to use design thinking and to engage in a creative process. And generally, the people you bring are people from 3 or 4 areas within your companies, from technical people to people in the business to executives, and that's the best way to get the full picture of what you're trying to achieve and have the best opportunity for success. I'll talk a little bit now about the technologies involved and that comprehensive portfolio. So the first thing is really to talk about the different sections. So at first, on the left-hand side, what you're doing is you're connecting these devices to the people and the things, you're monitoring them, and then bringing the data in. That's the first step. And SAP has basically 3 different options to do that, and they're designed for different scenarios. And this is a big differentiator because a lot of cloud-based companies you'll see only, and we have the cloud solutions as well, but as I said, you may need edge capabilities, you may need on-premise capabilities, and so you need these options if you look at the entire way you want to connect and optimize the processes. So our option 1 is a cloud-based option that basically cloud platform, and if you've heard the term device cloud, this is an SAP device cloud, which allows you to provision and manage and deal with the devices connected directly to the HANA cloud. So that's the first option. The second option is used more inside manufacturing plants. This has a technology called Pico, which is used to provide the connectivity within the plant itself, and has connectivity to a huge number of different types of devices and PLCs, et cetera. And SCADA systems. The second is the manufacturing, the MII, and this is, for a better word, sort of a BI for manufacturing. So this provides the analytics and the presentation and about all the information coming off the floor. If you go to that plant for Harley-Davidson in York, you'll see MII screens all over the entire plant. Second, and the last bit is the event stream processor. Now, this is SAP's intelligence on the edge. This allows you to really process that information. You can do a few things with it. You can compress. So if the machine is saying I'm fine or within tolerance, you can ignore that. When it moves out of tolerance, you then capture and transmit that kind of data. You can also do edge analytics and display on gateways of information, or for instance, if there's something malfunctioning on the shop floor, you can automatically stop it. So all of that kind of stuff can happen on the edge with edge intelligence. So that's option 2 in the manufacturing environment. And then option 3 is a standard environment for doing on-prem as well as connecting to the cloud. And this is where you may have a device that goes on and off of connectivity. And we have a very lightweight database called SQL Anywhere Ultralight. And that ultralight feature allows you to embed this database on very small devices down to sort of Raspberry Pi and a few hundred K. And that allows these devices to record the data onto a very lightweight database. So if you have a let's say cappuccino service and you're doing caffeine as a service, and that particular machine goes offline for any reason, it can be recording the information. Let's say it's starting to run out of the capsules to provide that caffeine. When it comes back online, mobile link technology will then synchronize that database back up into the cloud, and let's say your logistics solutions for fulfillment can then be rerouted dynamically based on that information that came back online and say, okay, you've got to go by this particular location and refill the caffeine and the coffee pot. And then the last is, again, the event stream processor, which is that very powerful edge technology that can be used for any sort of processing on the edge. And, think about that sort of like a JavaScript environment, that anything you can write objects, you can do very intelligent edge processing there on the edge. So those are the 3 options. And the fourth is, I'll get to that in a second. So you first want to connect and go through all of the different options I talked about. And then the next is how you transform and really connect that to the core of your operations. And then finally reimagine. So in this process, I'll walk through the SQL Anywhere and the mobile link and the event stream processor. The next is to get it to the HANA Cloud. The HANA Cloud platform really allows you the ability to connect to lots of different data types. And so you want your operational data existing in your suite, your hot data that's in HANA. You may connect to what they call warm data, which is in your IQ or internal databases, and then even your data lakes, which are in your Hadoop stores, et cetera. And we have a technology called Smart Data Access, which supports and helps you with your dynamic tiering. And what that means is you basically are pulling the data in that you need to operate on in a dynamic fashion, whichever tier it exists on. And all of that is connected with the HANA Cloud platform and the HANA platform itself. On the HANA Cloud platform, the IoT services, and this is that first option I talked about, allows you to do the remote data management, provisioning, getting those devices on, managing the data itself, managing all the different services and connecting that to the HANA Cloud platform, and enabling different applications and the APIs required to write those. So one of the things you may want to do in your landscape is create applications that your users can access. We had the CIO of Walmart on stage at Sapphire, and she was talking about speed is everything. And so the ability to take information from all the different data sources, munge that together, understand outcome, and provide services to your customer in a way that was not possible before is now available through this architecture we're laying out here. So the last piece here is the HANA Cloud integration, and this allows you to connect, HANA Cloud applications to other SAP and non-SAP applications. So this is our standard HANA Cloud integration to allow you to connect to anything, and that's available as part of the process as well. The last thing I'd say is we realize that everything is not going to be an SAP homogeneous environment. And so we are working with third-party device cloud companies, data companies, et cetera, so that you can fit these technologies into your existing environments in a seamless way without disruption. So that gives you kind of a high-level view of how all the pieces come together in the building blocks to make these solutions. And this slide shows you that we have a number of partners, and there's more. So if I've missed anybody, please. These are folks that are being trained ongoing and have active work going on with SAP today. There are, as I said, there are more, but the point here is that we have a good SI ecosystem working with the technology. There's all the enablement work for your internal development and deployment groups, as well as systems integrators, as well as SAP teams. So you can get this deployed, and we are ready to go to help you do that. The last thing I want to talk about is in the IoT, there's a huge number of players required. It's a large stack. You're not going to have the IoT companies. You're going to have companies that play at different levels, from the chips to the connectivity to the device clouds, et cetera, et cetera. And SAP is building out a very comprehensive ecosystem so that you can work with SAP, and we'll remove a lot of the hunting and pecking and trying to find the 16 vendors to make this work, because we'll give you 3 or 4 options in every area that companies connecting to it. And what we've done here, this is a great example. Jasper provides provisioning technology for the telcos, and we've worked to create a portal with Jasper that allows our customers to basically provision their connectivity on a global basis through 120 different telco carriers using this Jasper portal. So again, this makes it easy for you as a customer to engage and remove a lot of the complexity from that. Last slide here, I just want to say there's a huge amount of content. Please go to sap.com IoT, follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, et cetera, YouTube. There's tons of content showing all this that I showed you in depth, and a lot more customer stories. Please feel free and log in there. And lastly, as I said, happy to respond by mail or get one of our team to help you in any of the questions or work you're doing in your own implementations going forward. So, Paul, that's what I have for today. I hope that provides everybody a good overview of what SAP has to offer, and a good overview of what they should be, customers should be thinking about as they engage in IoT across the board.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Michael, can you hear me?
I can.
Kayla, while we're just going to the Q&A piece, can you just put up the survey questions, please? And just a reminder for attendees, as the survey questions come up, you feel free to submit questions inside the Q&A. So as a reminder, think about, what was the key takeaway from this webcast today? Another question that'll pop up in a minute in terms of what are you still missing and what future topics would you like to see? Michael, thanks again for a very informative talk, and it was a great kickoff for the series. We have a few questions that sort of have come in. Here's the first one, Michael. As a customer, what are the key considerations when deciding on an IoT approach?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to, as I said, realize that this is a journey around finding those value propositions. And that in the long term, choosing a comprehensive stack that like SAP offers as a core part of your solution is incredibly important. Then figuring out the step-by-step value and areas where you can drive the most short-term value, because any one of these initiatives will want incremental value along the way. So as part of that design thinking process, what you should think about is, okay, we understand where this technology applies in our business. Here's where we can get the most value in the first, second, and third step, and then move up that maturity curve. And then all the way along, make sure that you've got a creative group of team members inside thinking about how they can use the data and the information in ways that the company is not today. And that's, I think, how companies can have not only the operational improvements that will come from being able to know things you don't know now, but really the breakout innovations that can really transform a company. So that's the process that I would follow.
Great, thanks. Questions come in. How can we learn about industry-specific IoT apps, tools, and trends? And just before Michael jumps in on this, I want to say as well, from an ASUG perspective, we plan to start delivering some very industry-specific content in future to really showcase some of these examples. And one particular event I'll highlight. There's an SAP manufacturing event for customers that's going to happen June 23rd to 25th in Chicago. And I know Michael's speaking in that, participating in a session, and there's a workshop as well. So that's another forum to learn more about that. In addition, we've got an SAP Utilities event coming in the fall, an oil and gas event. IoT will be embedded in that. And as I said, we'll keep our ASUG members apprised by industry of examples that we're finding. Michael, if you could add anything?
No, except that, I completely agree. And the different solutions, go to the industry events, the insider events, the manufacturing events. These are where you can learn more. But specifically, if you go to SAP.com and to those links that I showed you earlier, and I think those will be on a PDF that everybody has access to, that's where you can learn about the different solutions available. Reach out to your executive or reach out to me. Happy to get you to the right person as you're trying to figure this out.
And I think it's our June 23rd webcast where we have actually Accenture talking about examples in heavy asset industries, utilities, chemicals, oil and gas, and so on. They'll be actually highlighting some examples as well. Another question here, Michael. What are options to partner with SAP to enable IoT offerings from a consulting company point of view?
So all of the standard SAP partner levels are available. If you're already a partner with SAP and you just want to get engaged around understanding, getting trained on what's available, et cetera, reach out to me and I'll connect you with the right people. We have a whole team doing partner enablement and getting that ready, and they're happy to help. So just send me a note.
And then just a note on that, when ASUG will be pushing out following this, the recording, the copy of the presentation, as well as we'll also push out Michael's contact detail and information to register for our next webcast on June 2nd. Here's another question, Michael. We're getting quite a few coming in. Go ahead.
The only other thing I would say is if this is a European solution, you might reach out to Nils Hertzberg because he's my European counterpart. And
I'll further add to that. And actually, I think it's our June 9th or 11th webcast. We actually have Niels on stream that it'll be interesting to share things from a European perspective on IoT and Industry 4.0, as well as we actually have one of the board members from the German SAP user group talking about their perspective on IoT and Industry 4.0. Another question here, Michael. There's a new IoT service now available in SAP HCP. Thought that was not covered here today. Is there any tool available for process modeling for IoT in SAP HCP?
That tool is available. It was announced at Sapphire, and I can connect you. If you send me a note, I'll connect you with the folks around that tool to get you the details around the abilities around process model.
And we'll be getting those tools quite a bit, actually. This is maybe well planned out, Michael, in terms of our July 9th webcast, where we'll be going through that in detail. Here's another question. How is IoT used and to what extent at the customers you showed under connected logistics?
Well, there's different, connected logistics is a broad-based view. So what we've done is they've connected and added the ability to connect multiple types of devices to our standard transportation management, warehouse management, et cetera. So a number of customers there have taken advantage of that to manage their transportation and geofence and those kinds of things. The one that I was showing around the port logistics is brand new, and the main customer there, which we co-developed with that, was the Port of Hamburg, and they're using that quite happily to dramatically improve their flow. I did a session with the port manager at Sapphire, and they're thrilled thus far with the solution. If we want to, I think probably you may even, Paul, want to have a series of IoT and manufacturing, IoT and logistics, and have the leads of those folks come on and
exactly
into each examples.
And to further add to that, I mean, that's what we're planning to do from a community side as we look to educate our membership and actually get ideas as well from our ASUG membership, is to have very targeted webinars, session, and content tied to, different industries and areas. Michael, another question we have here for you. Innovation is hard work. IoT is innovative in many cases. How do we get management to get into an innovative mindset?
Yeah, I'll tell you how we did it at SAP, and I think it's important for everybody in every business to think about this. You're right, innovation is hard work, but what you want to do, let me step back and say, IoT is going to affect everybody, and those companies that wait and see how other companies do it will likely be laggards and be in trouble. And if you think about SAP, if we say, okay, we're going to wait and see how IoT affects the software business, and our competitors create fabulous IoT solutions and we do nothing, and then pretty soon we're not, if the future of logistics is the container lets manufacturing know that it's going to be late, manufacturing automatically responds. If that's the future, and I think everybody on the phone will believe that that's probably the future, if SAP solutions don't engage and integrate with all that technology and make sure that we're optimizing our software to manage that, all of you customers will choose different software because we'll no longer be in optimization and process business because we're not doing a good job at it. And I think the same is true for every one of your businesses. So the reality is that the way that we've discussed this internally and the way that I think customers is first, be clear that this trend is going to rapidly modify major swaths of the economy and figure out the kind of disruption it could have in your own industry. What if your competitor did X, Y, Z? What would that mean? Have that conversation with your management. And at the same time, talk about incremental gains. You're not going to go on a science experiment to go, let's all spend millions of dollars playing around with IoT. No manager in their right mind would do that. But if you have the conversation and say, listen, these are the kinds of disruptions that could hit us if we don't get after this. What we'd like to do is put together a very prescriptive program where we engage with SAP and name X, Y, and Z, other companies, et cetera, and we're going to figure out what the top 3 value propositions are. We're going to start on a journey that doesn't cost us an arm and a leg, but make sure we don't get our leg, we don't get blindsided, and then at the same time, all the way along, we get incremental value. And that's the way that we had the conversation internally, and I think that's the way it'll work, because then any reasonable manager would, the fear and the upside come together in every manager's decision. Well, I don't want to screw up here, so I want to make sure that this is valuable and powerful, and at the same time, I don't want to blow a bunch of money. So if you address both of those issues, my experience with customers is you can get the attention of executives.
So, Michael, just to further add to that, I mean, you made a comment earlier that, IoT really isn't that new. I mean, SAP's been doing it for a while. Companies have been doing it for a while. When I was a customer, I was at a utility, and we were doing, in essence, IoT and power plants 10 years ago, sensoring equipment, feeding into data storage, feeding into a cloud, predictive analytics, forecasting future failures. And what's interesting is that, to your point, companies got value from doing it way back, doing it over the years, even when sensors were a lot more expensive, computing power was relatively expensive. But we're at a point in time now, as you mentioned, sensors are really, really cheap. In a number of cases, they're embedded. If they're existing assets, it's pretty easy to slap on low-cost sensors that plug into Wi-Fi networks, so on and so forth. And I think to that point, we had a model way back when, do it, prove it, grow it. I mean, you can start small, show the value, but with technologies as well today, you can actually, it makes it relatively easy to connect into infrastructure to do things faster, cheaper than you could do in the past.
I think that's absolutely right. And, even though we've been doing it for a while, there's interesting statistics out there that manufacturing, for instance, only 25% of the plants are wired, for this. So there's still a huge opportunity, and now with the decreasing cost, to really gain advantage. The other thing I'm seeing is customers using the technology not just to, let's say, optimize their service capability with predictive maintenance, but if they have service contracts and they actually maintain competitors' equipment as well, which many do, they can actually create and center up everybody's equipment, understand the profile of every piece of equipment, and make sure they're only taking the best contracts. That's really interesting competitive advantage. And so those are the kinds of things that will get the attention of how you can really differentiate now that this technology is becoming affordable and ubiquitous.
We have, I think, time for maybe 2 more questions here. What is the average time to implement an IoT solution?
Ooh, that's how long
it depends, Michael, right?
The reality is, yeah, it depends. We're seeing, if you're trying to optimize, some of the stuff we have off the shelf here, you can be up very rapidly in a number of months. If you're doing a co-innovation, those things take longer.
Another question here. I saw a block on one of your slides, Michael, that said Rule Engine. What engine is this? Is it BRF Plus or something else?
I don't know. I'll get one of my team to answer that question.
Okay.
I think we have options, and you can actually plug in different options as well.
Okay, we'll squeeze in one more question here, and then I'll get Kayla to close things off. How long do you think it will be until the individual consumer will be immersed in IoT technology on an everyday basis, with or without his knowing? I think it's already happening today.
Well, to me, I'm not a young guy, and I've seen a number of these trends. And to me, what happens with these things now, and I think this is the scary thing, going back to you don't wait, is they sneak up on you. I mean, if anybody who's been in business for 15 years, let's say that amount of time, you remember a decade or so ago when you were going, I wish I had a cell phone that would actually do X, Y, and Z. Look how quickly that has completely changed how we do business, how everything works. Texting makes phone calls almost irrelevant. So to me, what's going to happen here is that it's going to seem like all these trends, it's overhyped, it's not happening, blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to wake up just like we did with the web after, Lehman and everybody thought the web was dead, and all of a sudden, oh my God, it's changed everything. And it's going to be one of those things that, over the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years, the companies that are moving and getting their head around this are going to be in a huge opportunity to transform things. So I think basically it will be much faster than anybody expects, and it will be a very dramatic curve from, it's starting to happen, till, oh my God, it's taking over. And that's how I think it's going to work. It's going to be a very exponential curve.
Great. So from my perspective, we still have more questions coming in, but that's all we have time for today. Thanks for participating in today's call from a ASUG IoT community perspective. Our next webcast is June 2nd, episode 2 in the series. And just as a reminder, we have some IoT content at upcoming chapter meetings. June 3rd chapter meeting next week in Toronto, June 5th in Atlanta, as well as we have many other things planned. Kayla, anything to add on closing? And thank you, Michael, for giving a very informative presentation.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, everyone, for the opportunity.
Thank you so very much, Paul, and thank you very much, Michael. On behalf of ASUG and the brand new Internet of Things community, I'd like to thank our attendees today for dialing in and joining us. We do hope that you will consider registering and participating in a future webcast in this series. Details on how to do that, as well as all of the links and abstracts, will be included in our follow-up email to you later on this afternoon. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day.